The White Dwarf is dead. Long live the new White Dwarf.
Spiky bits.
Welcome back, hobby maniacs. I'm Baer from SpikyBits.com, and today we are going over the brand new edition or iteration of White Dwarf. Now, this bad boy is gonna come with a double-sided poster, shrink wrapped in here, but it doesn't have too many bonus free gift content like we saw with December's issue. So this poster is of Marneus Calgar at Vigilus. Here you can kind of get a brief preview. And on the back, it's going to show you all of this in-system stuff and where all the fighting's happening at. But we know, or we suspect, that we'll see more from Vigilus as in a second book, probably featuring Chaos. At least that's the conventional wisdom out there. Now, this White Dwarf is about the same size as December's. However, there's a lot of differences when it comes to this White Dwarf. And truth be told, this is the third time they've changed the White Dwarf in the past 5 years. They changed it back to a weekly format, and actually 5 years ago. Then 2014, it came out to weekly format. Then they switched that back to normal, air quotes, White Dwarf monthly in 2016. So about a year, 2 years and a half. And then now in 2018, going into 2019, we have this new format where they claim to be getting back to their roots of the previous editions of White Dwarf, so, which is probably more of the like late 90s, early 2000s kind of style of White Dwarf. So to talk about a brand new beginning here, they talk about that there's going to be more exclusive rules content coming to White Dwarf for both Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40k, which I definitely have some opinions on. And if you want to hear my opinions on the new White Dwarf, well, fast forward to the last third to fourth of this video as I break those down and give suggestions on my thoughts of how Games Workshop can improve if they want to keep forging ahead with this analog document in a digital age. Then I definitely have some ideas. Having to have read these since the 90s, I have some ideas on perhaps what they can do to entice folks to continue to buy this magazine that we haven't completely seen already, but definitely some thoughts there. Anyways, so this is going to be a little bit different. So there's dedicated sections now to the White Dwarf. You've got Underworld's Nightfall, you got your 40k section, your Age of Sigmar section, some kind of blend-ins in between each here. Then it's going to also have sections of smaller sections like Kill Team, Golden Demon features, things like that. There's also columns now. You got Phil Kelly, Jervis Johnson, Dave Saunders, and Robin Cruddas, and they're kind of in their respective areas, like either 40k or Age of Sigmar. Another cool thing about this is if you want to look for that content, you just flip through the top here, and there you can see there's Age of Sigmar. You've got some in between stuff. You got your little mini sections with new Kill Team rules for the Crude Mercenaries, Night Vault section, and then 40k's in the back, because I guess they figure everybody's going to be going to this, and definitely encompasses nearly the majority of the material there. Also features a battle report that we'll talk about here in a second. Now, they kind of sprinkle in the beginning here. They moved the letters section to the front. They've also moved the readers models to the front as well. And then it gets into the columns, and there's a little bit of fiction on the Caradon Overlords. So there you got Phil Kelly's column, and so on and so forth. New rules in here for Warhammer Skirmish Battles, which we previously saw as its own supplement back in 2017. And a lot of this material is actually the same in here. It seems like it's a little bit of a twist to Path and Glory, between Path and Glory and Skirmish as well. They definitely have updated it to the 2.0 kind of rule style. Some of the battle plans are the same. It's definitely worth a read if you haven't got the old Skirmish book and you can find it cheap on eBay or something. It might be worth picking up. There's a lot of stuff in there that they applied to Warhammer. Well, it was called Shadespire actually in Warhammer Skirmish, but they applied it to the Underworld's kind of system of gaming as well. A couple of features in here. We're not going to super get into everything, but the hobby content is kind of splattered throughout the section, so you're going to see that stuff in here. There's a great showcase army, and I'm not going to spoil that, but there's some really dope conversions. And then it gets into some art stuff. 40k section's got fiction. There's Golden Demon sections in here. We'll talk about that here in a second. Great little article by Darren Latham. I think it's definitely worth a read. Then you get into the section that contains your new rules. And Index Astartes was actually a feature of White Dwarf back in the early 2000s, where they rolled out a lot of newer rules for Warhammer 3rd Edition, and they also put in a lot of fluff and tried to build up a lot of backgrounds for Legion/chapters of the time, and eventually that stuff made its way into the Horus Heresy novels in 2006, and also the Horus Heresy rules set, the Age of Darkness rules that initially came out in 2011, 2012-ish, and all that stuff, you know, now in 2019, we know what it all is, but this was the beginning. So Index Astartes, they're rolling it back, they're going over all the intricacies of the Crimson Fist. Also, they splattered in hobby content. The paint splatters actually features. Oh, well, there's the rules themselves. New chapter relic strategy. Well, that one isn't it. But, you know, there's some new stuff in here, which we already saw because this was all leaked on the internet because somebody got their White Dwarf and realized, hey, this is important stuff. And poof, it goes up on the internet. Then you've got the paint splatter, which I really like how they did this. They took, hey, here's a feature on Crimson Fist. This is our feature for 40K. Maybe we'll put in how to paint Crimson Fist, because if people become enamored with it, hey, how do I paint it? Boom, it's all right here. Great idea. I really like that, and I hope that they do that for, you know, the Gloomspite Gits, which, by the way, aren't in here at all. We know we've just heard about those in the past, you know, whatever, 2 weeks or so. There's nothing in here on them whatsoever, and we're going to talk about that here in a second as well. There is an interesting departure to their battle report format here. This is more of a competitive style list, and I'll just leave it here. You can look at it, and if you're a competitive 40K player, you know what I'm talking about. If not, that's fine. But there it is. But what I like is they give you the points breakdowns, they give you little icons that you can look at and reference throughout the rest of the battle report, etc., etc. Now, this battle report, written out long form, is roughly 20 pages long and encompasses pretty much the entire rest of the magazine, except for some studio stuff at the back and the box chatter in the end right here, which I thought was long personally, but I look back at December's issue and it's exactly the same length, but it's a little bit well done because of these icons and because the lists are definitely a little bit more on the competitive side, but, you know, with a GW twist, because they don't tend to be so competitive, if you know what I'm saying. Air quotes competitive. Now, we also know that there's new rules probably coming out. I would wager that the Tome Celestial Hammer Hands means that, hey, that's the Warhammer Age of Sigmar version of the Index Astartes. Now we're probably going to see new content, new paint splatter, and new rules for the Hammer Hands chamber of the Stormcast. That's just me throwing it out there. I don't know that for sure, but, you know, putting 2 to 2 together, I got 5. Now, let's compare these apples to apples with the previous version of White Dwarf. So they're both about the same length, as you can see here. This one might be a little bit bigger, but about 144 pages, about roughly the same size as a codex. But you'll notice one big thing here. Not as well organized. Still the same type of features-ish, but there's something glaringly obvious missing. And that is all of these previews, ads, whatever you want to call them. They're gone. They're out. They out. There's no current content in this new White Dwarf here for any new releases or miniatures coming out in January, which is a bold departure. Probably something they've caught the most flack for in the past is, why am I paying money for all these ads? But sometimes people like the previews and they like to learn more about the products from Games Workshop themselves. I don't know. But that is definitely something that we have seen a complaint. So what is the pros and the cons between the two right here? Well, pros and cons right off the bat in both columns: no ads, no previews. Depending on how you look at it, that could both be a pro and a con, I suppose, right? The pro to the new format is you've got dedicated columns by dedicated columnists at Games Workshop. These are the folks that are in the studios, you know, interfacing, developing the new products, the new background, the new lore, what have you, for all of the Warhams. And that's really cool to see. And that's something that you don't get normally in pretty much anywhere, unless they tweet or something like that. Another pro is the dedicated sections. It's easy to find the content you want. You want 40K? Flip to the back. You want Night Vault? Well, there's a little bit in there. You want Age of Sigmar? Hey, it's in the front. You know, it's just boom, it's there. But they have taken those previews out, they've added in the columnists, the fiction story sections and things like that. And there isn't a dedicated hobby section in here, which is definitely something that I feel like when we talk about improvements that you can improve upon. Now, a definite con overall to both of these White Dwarfs, when we actually put out an article back in November, it has the digital age passed the White Dwarf by, I think, and we'll link to it in the comments so you can kind of read up more on what we said. All of this content is available online. You can find tutorials, you can find online, you can find from written out to video on YouTube. You can find long form battle reports, short form battle reports, live video battle reports galore. It's all out there. It's all of this stuff is readily available online, the end period. So that's a definite con. And we know that Privateer Press just shelved their No Quarter magazine, and one of the things they said, hey, it's a digital age, that we don't, analog, it doesn't have a place. We're going to put our resources over there. Perhaps, maybe GW will make that shift in the future. I don't know. It's not for me to decide, but I do have some suggestions, Games Workshop, for how you can improve and entice folks to buy the White Dwarf going forward in 2019 in what is probably going to be an increasingly digital age of the hobby. Recently, we actually put out an editorial as well on how Games Workshop can entice or make White Dwarf great again, so to speak, or just basically entice folks to actually continue to buy it. And the first one right off the bat, and I know this is a hot button issue, GW and folks, but lower the price. Like, seriously, we saw with the weekly White Dwarf that came out 5 years ago to this month that it was $4. And you know what? Guess what sold out? The weekly White Dwarf. Stores couldn't order enough. I guarantee you, and I've never guaranteed anything on these video reviews ever that I know of, but I guarantee you, Games Workshop, for whatever it's worth, that your weekly White Dwarfs, or rather, your monthly White Dwarfs, if you lowered the price from $9 to say $5 to $6, they will sell out every month. And here's why. I've been in this industry for 30 plus years. I've worked at game stores my entire adult life in some form, whether advisory or behind the counter. And I can tell you what, every person that comes into a game store has $5 to $20 of disposable income ready to go. And guess what they can't buy nowadays? Unless they're into D&D and some of the different games, and that depends on what the store stocks, they can't really buy a Games Workshop figure. You know why? Because a clan pack's roughly $35. So what else do they have to buy besides something like this or some hobby stuff? Now, you've already got the pots of paint at $4.25. The previous White Dwarf was $4. Cut this down in size. Sell it for $5 or $6. You will literally sell out of them. No problem. People will buy it because, like folks have said, and again, tons and tons of time and effort and the creativity and the talent that goes into making this every month. I cannot say enough good things about. I know what it takes to publish content. This is an incredible publication. It's concise, it's clear, everything is in one nice, neat little package. You can take it on the go wherever you're going, and boom, read it, consume it, and then that's it. But here's the thing, people think twice at $9. Now that we've got the obligatory GW lower your prices out of the way, I don't actually expect you to, but it was just a suggestion. I would also like to suggest two separate but perhaps intertwinable things. The ETB models that you have been coming out with, easy to build or easy to buy, depending on who you want to ask what it really means, are a great insert for White Dwarfs. I'm not saying do it every month, and I'm not saying do characters and such. Do, just level dudes. Make a series of duders, or perhaps, think about this, an upgrade sprue for how dope would it have been if the Fist upgrade sprue came in this issue of White Dwarf. Make something that ties in with the White Dwarf. And like I said, do it every couple of months, whatever, what have you. But it's a great value, and we've seen it with the Conquest magazines that folks really, really like it when you put a model in here. And I could see the value at $9 if you're getting a single sprue model in the kit. Now, also going along with another suggestion would be posters. Just cycling through a series of posters, perhaps also once every 3 months, you could tic-tac it with an easy-to-build kit model or something like that. I think would be a great idea, because let me tell you what, I've been collecting and reading and buying White Dwarfs since the 90s. And you know what I don't have? I don't have those magazines. I might have a few of them here and there, but I don't have the magazines. But you know what I do have still? I have all the posters. I literally have all the posters. Land Raider poster, the Cutaway. A series of these on the new Primaris vehicles would be amazing. This is from 2000. This poster is nearly 20 years old, believe it or not. I still have it. I don't have the White Dwarf. I couldn't even tell you what came in the White Dwarf, but I still have the poster. All this stuff. A checklist of the new stuff coming out. It just goes on forever. This is from 5th edition 40K. This was when Apocalypse rolled out. Updating the paints in 2013. The paint chart and things like that. The Predator. Oh no, this was even better. 7th edition Warhammer 40K rolled out. There was a little checklist of a poster of miniatures, of all the different miniatures that you could get that were available at the time. You could do sections of Space Marines 1 month, Chaos the next month, all the affordable stuff. Just Adobe shop it up from your website. Stompa. I still have Titan instructions from the 90s. I don't even know why. All this stuff here, it's great bonus material that people love to have, love to hang up in their Beats lab and keep apparently for 20 some years as well. So those would be some really solid suggestions for bonus content, and I have one more too that I think would be very good for all the aspiring new as well as veteran hobbyists out there. The Citadel paint system fold-out chart came in Weekly White Dwarf, I think like early 70s. I can't remember which one. But it folds out to be like 4 feet tall. It's a great reference to have on your wall, behind you in your Beats lab when you're working on hobbying stuff up or just looking for color combinations. You don't have to jump into the app. It's all right there, quick reference. You can grab the paint off your shelf and you're good to go. This would be a really neat feature to bring back. Do specific areas, like perhaps hey, here's the dope combination of all the reds, and give some examples of reds and things like that. That could be an ongoing series. There's all sorts of different ways to spin it, I feel like. So long story short, I personally like and dislike some parts of this new White Dwarf. We've kind of gone over that, but I think going into the future, we will see more content and more features in the subsequent issues. I have a real big problem with new rules being the main driving force of purchasing this White Dwarf. It adds to bloat. It contributed to the downfall of 7th edition Warhammer 40K, where formations and even the assassin rules only came in the White Dwarf. And I'm very surprised. This is my opinion about this, not a review. This is my opinion. I'm very surprised that Games Workshop chose that path to go down to make the main selling point of their new White Dwarf new rules, where it is definitely a hot button issue out there that new and too many rules are a current and reoccurring problem in the Warhammer 40K game system. So that being said, those are my suggestions on how to improve the White Dwarf, because I don't feel like you can improve the content. The content is great. The pictures, the photography, the tutorials, the battle reports, everything is good. You can't improve that. It's all good stuff in here. It's just giving folks an incentive to buy that I feel like is very lackluster when it comes to the White Dwarf itself. So those are my suggestions. Take them or leave them. Comment below with what you would perhaps like to see or not see in the White Dwarf, how you feel about the new and continuing inclusion of exclusive rules in the White Dwarf for apparently 40K and Age of Sigmar, if the intro is to be believed right here. And just give us your general thoughts, because I am really interested in what you think of this particular publication, this analog publication in a digital age, and also the inclusion of new and exclusive rules. Overall, $9, same amount of content. You're not getting a whole bunch of ads, you're not getting a whole bunch of previews, but you are getting a solid magazine full of great content in 2019. So that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for your time. Make sure you subscribe to us and click the thumbs up right there so you can maybe perhaps make this easier to see for some other folks, but also subscribe to our notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on all our videos.
Spiky bits.